It is time to rethink and to realign. Learn and get inspired. Prepare your questions and enjoy insightful Podim DX panel.
All right, looks like we're jumping straight into the panel, which we can do as well. That's fine. We have heard from Ms. Vestager, so we're going to have the other panelists give us a little bit of an introduction about themselves just to set the context. Gerd, an old friend of mine, how are you?
Hi, good. Oh, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. Unfortunately, my camera crashed in the middle of it. You know, tech trouble, so what could you say? It's my daily job now.
Well, welcome back. We can see you fine now. Emilija, also a very warm welcome to you to the panel. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Robin. So hi, everyone. My name is Emilija Stojmenova. I'm head of Public-Private People Partnership Digital Innovation Hub. And I'm also assistant professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Fantastic. I am not 100% sure if we are waiting for another panelist or not, but I think we can kick off the discussion in the meantime in any case. You have heard Ms. Vestager talk about one thing that I would like to elaborate on in this panel, which are the industries that are thriving because of this crisis, but it will also maybe have an edge and something of a benefit when we come out of, on the other side of this. We mentioned healthcare, we mentioned education, technology, e-government. Do you identify any other sectors that might come out, positively out of this crisis? Gerd, maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah, I forgot to actually give the intro you asked before. So I'm a futurist. I live in Zurich, Switzerland. I am German originally. I wrote a book 4 years ago, Technology versus Humanity, which is very much this topic. So in terms of the industries, it's clearly we're moving towards a future of big tech, big government, big state. That's totally clear because, in many states, we're kind of getting paid by the state now. So we have a basic income in so many indirect ways now. And it's really quite clear that money is shifting away from oil and gas, for example, into medical care, into biomedicine, into AI, into all the things of technology. So the tech companies are the winners by and large, and they also are the only ones with new jobs. And I think there's a lot of momentum towards this becoming another real big tech thing, which is why we need to think about the next step of what I call too much of a good thing. See, technology is great, but too much technology is not so great. And then we have to discuss what exactly that means.
Yes. Well, I would argue that that goes for some tech companies, but not all. There's a statistic flying around that 50% of European startups might be running out of cash by September. If the situation doesn't change, so that's quite a threat to their business and their jobs as well. But Emilija, what do you think are the sectors that might be thriving because of this crisis and when we get out of it, hopefully soon?
So what I usually do, my field of research is rural development. And what we have seen here is the opportunities for rural development with digital technologies. I believe we forgot most of the time agriculture, for example, and we can see how much opportunity digital technologies and new technologies like AI, blockchain, and so on, Internet of Things was mentioned by the commissioner. So what we have started doing now is working with the local farmers. And they started using this new technology for some predictions. Yesterday, it was all about wine. I really enjoyed the pre-conference day. And for example, most of the farmers are not aware how digital technology can help them in the quality of wine. And also yesterday, we heard a great example about virtual wine tasting. So one could not imagine this would be possible previously. Selling of products, of local products, it was incredible how fast local farmers started selling online, which previously was not possible at all. So I believe that the opportunities are in the traditional sectors, and as it was mentioned by the commissioner earlier. So maybe we're lagging behind in social networks and business to customer technology, sectors, but we have the opportunity in business to business, and we should build here on this.
Yes, that's an absolute good point. I can hear Ms. Vestager nodding in agreement. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I think it's a very, very good point. And we see also for instance, in small olive producers in Greece, also here, because they have better data, they have technology to help them interpret, they get better quality. So they get a better share of the value that is produced in the value chain. And I find this to be very important also because if you can have this data and learn more, then you can reduce the use of pesticides. So you can enhance both the income of the farmer while at the same time enabling biodiversity and better protect, for instance, water. And this seems to be almost invisible because we don't think about it. But precision farming and data-based farming is really one of the things I think that will take off in the years to come. Because we need the land use in so many different ways, but we also need better income for the farmers actually doing the job.
Yes, well, let's absolutely hope so. And I'm looking forward to my invitation to the next virtual wine tasting event.
Yes.
Hey, Rob, can I make a quick comment on the tech part?
Absolutely. I was just about to go to you, so perfect.
Yeah, I think, it's quite clear technology holds the key for solving so many issues that have to do with things that are solved by technology, right? Efficiency, optimization, intelligence, and that's amazing. The thing that technology does not do, and I talked about this a little bit this morning, is it will not solve social, cultural, or political problems. Mm-hmm. If we have a problem sharing, technology won't help us. It's actually the opposite, right? I mean, look what happened in social media to the problems of media. They weren't solved by Facebook or by social. They were actually intensified by those kind of things, right? So we need to invest, as I say, we have to invest as much in technology as we invest in humanity, which is, for example, solidarity, right? And understanding each other and having human skills. I mean, these are very, very important things that have to grow at the same time. That's really what Europe stands for, I think. Having those two pillars.
Yeah, absolutely. So this panel is about future opportunities, but I also want to sort of highlight where we are right now in Europe, because as Ms. Vestager earlier in the fireside chat already mentioned, we sort of missed the boat when it comes to social networks. The operating system, the devices that we work on don't typically come from Europe. We're very good in certain things. We're very good in science and research. A lot of that takes place here in Europe. We're leaders in fintech globally. But my question is, what comes next? What are some of the industries that we need to invest in now to make sure that we stay on the cutting edge and that we don't miss the future boats? Is it robotics? Is it VR? Is it artificial intelligence? That's my question to you. Emilija, do you want to kick off first?
Yeah, sure. And it's a hard question, actually, because I don't know how to predict this. What are the industries? But what I would like to build on is that technology, as also Gerd mentioned today, it's a tool. But we need this tool. And most importantly, we need to know how to use that tool and what for. So I would like to speak instead of what industries we should work on, we should build on digital skills, and we should make sure that we not widen the digital gap. So because what I'm afraid is happening is that some of the industries, like you were mentioning, robotics, AI, and so on, we have a lot of excellent experts. We have a lot of talent in Europe for that. But on the other side, we have people, the communities who are not aware of these technologies. And what means, we need to raise the awareness about these technologies, because otherwise people are afraid. There is a lot of fear to using these new technologies. You can read the debates about 5G, about then collecting data. So it's all about surveillance and so on. So I believe that we need to work on the industry, to bring the technologies in the industry, but at the same time, we need to raise the awareness among the whole community. And an additional thing also today, again by Gerd, it was mentioned about smart cities, how smart they should be. But I think that we are not using the opportunity of the digital technologies within the cities inside. So, but for this, we need really to lose the fear in front of the technologies with everyone. Today was mentioned the education, the schooling, so how to convince a rural teacher, a teacher in rural Slovenia to use digital technology and to bring the class to a virtual tour in Versailles, or maybe a local farmer. I'm right now at the Slovenian coast. We have olives here as well. So how to use prediction data for better olive oil. So I think it's more about building on the skills than predicting what industry should we work on.
Emilija, I think you make an excellent point. Is there a risk of this technology sort of advancing too fast for society to be able to catch up with? Ms. Vestager, I'm sure you have an answer for that.
Well, the risk is, of course, that we get to think that it's about the tool and not about what we want to build. And of course, it's wonderful to have a toolbox and you open it and say, oh, all my shiny tools. But if you have no idea about what architecture, what rooms, what kind of life should this house hold, then I think you will lose out. And the thing is that we have a planet to save. This climate change doesn't go away. And we also have a number of promises that we haven't kept. Sort of the promises of universal healthcare of high quality, the promise that every child can use its talent and learn much more, a promise of clean water and air that you can breathe. And I think if we put those promises, that's a lot of purpose. It makes sense. This is what you want to throw yourself into. Well, then I think we will develop all different kinds of technologies that serves this purpose. And I think what Gerd is saying is very, very important, that we remember also to invest in the humanities, because without the humanities, we will get to think that the tool is what is important and not how we use it.
Gerd, I have no doubt as a futurist that you can also build on this discussion to share your own insights on this.
I think it's really important that here in Europe, I was born in Germany, I lived in America for 20 years, now I live in Switzerland. We need to lose the fear of things, but we have to keep the caution, right? And this is in America called the the precautionary approach and the proactionary approach, right? And it doesn't have to be either or. I think we can have both. And the thing that really makes us European is that we are thinking of the collective good, not just the monetary good, right? And that requires us to think with a bit more caution, which means sometimes slower. But we have a huge problem in Europe in general in that, I think a German chancellor, Willy Brandt, once said, if you have visions, you should go see a doctor, right? And of course, this is I can talk about Germany. I'm German, right? But this is very typical. It's like this is not going to get us into the future, right? In America, it's the opposite. You don't have visions, you got to go see a doctor, right? And we have to fix this. Right? We have to allow people to have visions for a future. That's the Green Deal, right? That's sustainable Europe. It's an equitable Europe, and that is how we're going to get to the future. Not by saying that some internet company will invent the future for us. I mean. Right now, let's face the fact that the story of the future is being told by tech companies, right? It's not being told by us. We're trying, right? But who tells us the future is the big tech companies. And that has to shift over to people who talk about the future based on technology, but not just run by technology. That would be my hope.
Yeah, so technology in service of humanity rather than the other way around. That's a very good point.
And that means regulation also, right? That we cannot, too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing, right? You drink too much, you smoke too much, you eat too much, and you use too much data, you watch too much television, and you connect your brain, upload your brain to the internet. That is just too much, right? It's not going to make us more human, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think smart, flexible regulation that you can translate across borders is something that's going to be increasingly important down the line. I also want to touch on something that I think that I've identified as sort of a problem in Europe, and I'm not the only one by any means, but there is a huge potential here. There's huge scientific research and innovation being done in academia, in research institutions, research centers that doesn't always translate well to the commercial market. There is a huge gap in between the technology and the innovation that we invent in labs and what we actually bring to the market. This whole technology transfer is a really huge issue in Europe. Ms. Vestager, I would like to see if you agree with that statement, and if so, if you have a way out of this and a way to fix it.
Well, I think you're right. I don't know to what degree it's a problem, but it is indeed an issue. And what we try to do is to say, well, if for instance, you have a private-public partnership in one of these important projects of common European interest, it's not only the innovative phase of the research phase, it's also until first deployment. Because you need also to start thinking about quite early on, how does this meet the market? And you need to be able to have the funds also to support that. Of course, eventually it will have to stop because you should be in business because of business and not because of subsidies. But I think that we get a deeper understanding of how these processes work. We can also make sure that research grants, have a better combination for the different phases.
Yes. Emilija, do you have any thoughts on this?
Actually, yes. And I believe that the European Commission is doing a great job with the digital innovation hubs. So I can see the role of the digital innovation hubs, how they will better move the research from the universities, from the research centers to the companies and the communities itself. So I'm a head of a digital innovation hub here in Slovenia, and we are working with companies, but also with public administrators and the communities, because if we are only working with the companies, I was speaking about this earlier, then this is not enough, especially the public administrators and decision makers should be involved in these processes so that they will understand the role of the digital technologies inside. And I would also like to mention another thing. So digital innovation hubs, I think they will be very good for the digital future of Europe, but we should be careful that we also have a gatekeeper. So we not only put the big players inside, because there are a lot of small digital innovation hubs who are maybe new, but very proactive. And somehow they need to get their place on the market there. So thank you, European Commission, for doing this great job for the digital innovation hubs. And I believe that this could be one part of the solution.
Great. Gerd, do you have any additional quick thoughts before we move to some questions from the audience?
Yeah, just a quick answer on this. I think it's really important that we really do think about a common market that provides enough possibilities for startups cross-border, and that can only be done with the United States of Europe kind of concept, right? I mean, right now, this is the biggest problem because we have small markets, in France or Spain. It's not enough to just be local. You have to be across Europe, and then we have to be truly united. I think this is the key challenge for us, to come together economically much deeper than we are now, especially today. Saying that is a huge, that's like pie in the sky, right? So let's hope that happens some way or the other.
Yes, let's hope it all together. We have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to take some questions from the Hop-in stream, where lots of people are asking very good questions. One of them is addressed to Ms. Vestager. I'm going to quote it. It says, regulator has an eye on big tech companies, which is good. Are you looking more into also the underdogs, the small companies that are following in their footsteps, and that might even be more aggressive in breaking standards and existing regulation as they grow very quickly?
That's a very interesting question. Of course, we try to stay vigilant, but one of the things that we actually need is a competence to go into a market that hasn't tipped yet, where an investigation could show us, oh, there is a risk of tipping here. There's a risk that someone with an aggressive behavior, but maybe not illegal, is changing the market dynamics and making it very difficult for us to step in here. And we're just starting a consultation on such a market instrument to make sure that we can get in, not to give a fine, but to say, well, these are the commitments that you will have to follow in order for this market to stay open and dynamic. And that could cater for a situation as the one described.
Great. One short follow-up question that I think is also interesting. Is there someone looking after ethics when it comes to digitalization within the Commission?
In different ways, yes. Of course, a lot of our ethics, they are in our legislation. Sort of the GDPR can be seen as sort of digital citizens' rights. And there's a lot of value and ethics into that. So I have colleagues who watch over that in particular. And what we have been doing with, where I have been responsible, for instance, with artificial intelligence, is to say, well, we've been working with a huge number of external experts exactly on ethics. And what came from this is to say a lot of artificial intelligence, go, go, go. But if there is a risk of our fundamental values, well, we are in our democracies, we have full legitimacy to say, well, this will actually control, because there is a question of something fundamental here that we will not lose.
Right. So that's it for questions from the audience. I have asked a question to Ms. Vestager at the end of our fireside chat. I'm going to ask the same question to Gerd and Emilija. What are some of the most surprising learnings for you that you learned during this lockdown? Some things that surprised you about either human behavior or the strengths of technology or the weaknesses of technology in this whole situation for the last 2 months? Gerd?
Yeah, quoting Milton Friedman, who I don't usually quote, right? Only a crisis, real or perceived, provides real change. And I see change everywhere now, in good ways and in difficult ways. But I think I'm surprised by this feeling that we're moving into what I call the Great Transformation, right? Not the Great Depression. You know, everything is being questioned. I'm also surprised and positively surprised by how much compassion and willingness to collaborate all of a sudden is unfolding. Right? And I just hope we can integrate that politically into a larger movement, you know, the post-corona movement, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So yeah, that's very good to know.
That's an excellent observation. And can I also compliment you on your background in the meantime, which is quite futuristic as well. Emilija, what's your biggest learning in all of this?
So my personal biggest learning is that I can stay at home for 2 months and not travel. I was very surprised. I'm also living in one city, commuting to another. So I saw that how much time I have per day. But regarding the community is how we are aware of what we are eating. So are we eating local food from the local farmer, where the food is coming from? Then another thing is that people who were against digital technologies, that suddenly they had nothing against the digital technology, to use it just to be able to work. And surprisingly, many people who were not very fond of working from home, because they thought that working from home is not a work at all. But now they saw that working from home works perfectly fine, and that sometimes you're even more efficient than if you're going to the office. So yeah, I was very surprised of all these changes happening inside the whole society.
Yes, I agree. That's also one of my learnings, that the fact that a lot of these companies were resisting remote working and digital communication tools rather than being in an office for so long. And now that they're forced to, suddenly it becomes possible and maybe even more productive. And so we'll see how lasting that change is, when we come out on the other side of this. And I also said this yesterday I was a speaker at the EU versus virus live stream, and I said something that I think is worth repeating here, is that I think this crisis sort of brings out the best in people, but it also brings out the worst in people. It also exposes some of the flaws in the system, both on the political level, in healthcare, on other subjects as well. So my hope is that at least we take this whole time that we have as an opportunity to look at what's going on, to really learn from it, and to make improvements down the line. Ms. Vestager, I'm going to give you the last minute to give your closing thoughts for the Podim audience, and of course the virtual audience that's watching from their homes.
Well, thank you very much. It has been great, and I really like the consideration both from Gerd and from Emilija, because I think these are the observations that will make sure that we do not forget what we have learned under confinement and with this digital crash course, but we'll also make sure that we do not forget everything else that we knew already, that societies is for citizens, that markets is for consumers and customers. and that we have a responsibility for when we use digital technologies to make sure that they are put in place for the best use. Of course, I hope that many of the startups on Podim will make loads of money, but I also hope that they will drive technology to enable us to do some of the things that we would want to do. We want to fight climate change. The planet is still at the table despite COVID and everything. That will enable us to fulfill some of the promises that we haven't really kept yet about education and about healthcare and about a clean environment, clean air, clean water. We still have so much to do, and I'm really enthusiastic to see what can happen in a situation like this when we have to. But just on picking up the last thing on Gerd, that the care, the empathy, the helpfulness in so many people has shown that civilization is not just a thin layer. It is really who we are. We have a very strong culture, and that strong culture can also make the best of technology. So thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing these positive closing thoughts. We are right on time. I cannot thank you all enough for this pleasant conversation. I hope it was useful for the audience. Thank you so much for your time, and hope to see you in person very soon.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.